Good evening. My name is Dr. Yolanda Irvin. I welcome you to Radical Self-Care Series. I would like to start our program by acknowledging the land that we sit and stand on. We want to acknowledge the we people, the Delaware, the Kickapoo, the Miami, the Mound Builders, the Pakashaw, Potawatomi, Shawnee, and we. We understand that this is not our land, and we do acknowledge and celebrate those that came before us. Radical Self-Care is basically a program that's focused on women of color, but actually it's actually evolved so that it is women generally. And we've had men to join us. What Radical Self-Care is about is serving yourself before you try to serve others. Because if you fill your cup too far, then that means that somebody will miss out, and it will definitely be you. I want to thank those that are on board, and we have Dr. Linear. She is on the committee that helped us create this, Dr. Clark and Chantrice Bradley. The Radical Self-Care is composed of 3 parts: the mind, body, and spirit. Right now, we have gone through the mind and the body. We're on the spirit, and it's the connection to yourself and something bigger. It does not involve spirituality per se, but it can involve how you acknowledge parts of yourself that are not, space bound. So it's definitely not about religious. Okay. Remember, students, we have a plethora of books. Dr. Clark is actually providing 2 different books for the raffle, and we do have t-shirts that embrace the woman. It's just the self-care is not selfish. So we have a couple of t-shirts that you can also choose. So by way of introduction, I would love to introduce my friend, Dr. Joni Clark. Her session is spiritual situation survival in the new normal. She's going to talk about Black thought and womanist theory, but it's going to be a combination of all things, and I do not want to give her thunder. I don't want to take her thunder. Dr. Clark received her PhD in in leadership and policy studies from Indiana University in Bloomington, and she's also an ordained master's in divinity from the Interdenominational Theological Center in Atlanta, Georgia, and a BA from Wilberforce. So she's an HBCU, Historical Black Colleges University alum. Joni researches, she works, her driving force is the mentorship and the engagement of others. So that's what what she does for us. Okay. And with that said, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and pass it on to Dr. Clark. I will bring up her presentation. Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Clark. It is on you.
Thank you, Dr. Irvin. And good evening. Let me know, I have a voice issue. So if you don't understand what I say, or you need me to repeat it, just say so. And I'm happy to do it. We good? Okay, next screen. I'd like you to take a moment to read, because as Dr. Irvin said, this is a safe space, and we come here to be ourselves and share ourselves. Okay, let's get to it. I'm probably going to be the only presenter that asked you to do this, but turn off your video. It's just like closing your eyes. I can still see you, Sister Vanita. But the day is coming to a close. Let's just breathe. It's been a great day because we're still here to tell our story. And that's a good thing. So inhale, let it out. Inhale peace, let out the controversies of the day. Breathe in joy. Breathe out any confusion or negativity that might have come your way today. Just breathe. Just take that breath. Give thanks. And turn your camera back on. Okay, next slide. We're gonna play Who's in the Room? Yay! Okay. I want your name and who you brought with you. For example, I'm Joni Clark, and I bring my two grandmothers who were both Baptist, staunch Baptists. My dad, who belonged to a church but didn't go. My aunts and my great-grandmothers, who all taught me about God and religion and gave me my foundation. That's who's with me today. Oh, and my mentor, who taught me it was okay to ask questions about God and to God and about my own spirituality versus my religion. Okay, who's next? Not above picking. Okay.
I will go. I'll go.
Okay.
Yolanda Irvin. Let's see, who am I? Lord, I have a plethora of women. My mother and her sisters who showed me what it was to be a strong woman. My dad, who much like your dad, deacon in the church, but stopped going to the church. And I think my oldest brother, who told me what it was to be protected by a man, literally protected and shielded, which is hard to find. I think for me, I have not found that since him. And I just, the circle of women that I've encountered within the last 10 years, I bring them.
Thank you. Next.
I'll go.
Oh, go ahead.
JD. Hi, my name's Bree. Honestly, I brought all my chosen family because sometimes birth family is a bit too much. So my chosen family, my brothers and sisters along the way, you know, but yeah, always my chosen family because that they are where my heart lies.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing.
I am Jade Ledak. I would say my mom, as well as my sister and my niece and nephew.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm Annie Liner. I would say who I bring is every person that has had an impact on my life, and hopefully Christ, who's the head of my life, is a reflection of the spirit that I bring in any room that I enter. So all that has influenced me, alive or deceased.
Thank you.
Okay, my name is Dua, and I would say also my family, my older sisters, my young siblings, so also my mom. So yeah, always keep in my mind.
It's awesome. Thank you. Anybody else?
Can y'all see me? I'm sorry. Okay, I had to rush home so I can actually talk with my mask off. So my name is Chantry. I bring my mother, who has instilled very strong values in the person I am today. I bring my dad, who kind of retweet of what everyone has said, was raised in the church, however, kind of lost his way a little bit by going. I bring my best friend, who I consider my sister Tyra. She was the one to lead me back to the church in my grad school days. And every strong woman that I've encountered in my professional and personal life, who had a really great impact on the person I am today.
Going
Joni?
once?
Okay, Joni.
Yes.
Hi.
Hi.
I will bring my grandma, my current pastor, and my dad.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, I see a hand. George.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jordan Montgomery, and I bring my mother, who she grew up in the church, but she kind of lost her way a bit. But she's definitely shown me what is, how to come up as an independent woman, even at a very young age. So my grandmother, who's really instilled a lot of my church values in me. She was the one who took me to church and everything. And my father and everyone else who's had a big impact on my life and my virtues.
Thank you. Going once, going twice. Really, Martha? Not gonna share. Okay. Thank you all. Because it's important to know that wherever we go, we're not by ourselves. All those people journey with us, and we need to acknowledge and respect that. Next slide. Just for the sake of all being on the same page, I wanted to show the origin, or who I consider to be at the grassroots of womanist thought, and that's Alice Walker. And this is the definition of womanist based on her work. And we're going to really focus on the highlighted pieces. Okay, that said, that first piece, not a separatist, except periodically for help. Self-care. At the heart of womanist thought is self-care, like today. And it's okay to separate. If I asked for a show of hands, I bet we could all raise our hand today if I asked, who touched somebody today? Who helped someone? Who connected someone? Who engaged? Who gave a part of themselves today? We do. And we do it without thinking. Yep, I see those hands. We do. And we give happily and freely. And we have to do the same for ourselves. So at this moment, you're going to give happily and freely to yourself because it's essential. It's like the airplane rule. You can't help someone else with their mask until you put your own on. Chantrice, is that raised for yes, or you have a question? I don't want to overlook it. Okay. So yes, that is essential. And a lot of times when we talk spirituality or religion, self is thought of as the last person that you think about. And that's not always true. Again, helping others has to start with helping yourself. Loving others starts with loving you. I can't see the chat box, but if you could put in there, aside from attending this session, what other act of self-care or self-love did you do today? And it doesn't have to be big, it can be small. You treated yourself to lunch. Or not. You took some time, you took a minute to just stop listening, stop giving, and just center. No day should go without recognizing you and all that you give to the world. There should not be a day when you don't listen to yourself, just like you listen to everybody else. So,
Dr. Clark, you
yes,
have
ma'am.
the chat. Maybe I'll fit something in before the end of the day, and prayed for self and others and working out. Those were in your chat.
Excellent, thank you. So self-care, exercise, yes. Oh, look at that. Someone stopped to look at the moon and that's perfect. It's just that simple. Giving yourself an opportunity to just embrace beauty, embrace yourself. And I'm glad she said that about stopping to look at the moon, because look at our next piece. Loves music, loves dance, loves the moon, loves spirit, loves love, and food. Can I get a witness? Love me some food. And roundness. But loves the moon and the spirit. As easy as it was to come up or to find this definition for womanist, it was not that easy to define spirit. As a matter of fact, I think it's one of the few times that Merriam and Webster let me down because it just wasn't that great. So I know for me, spirit is that intangible force that motivates, creates, protects, loves, and sometimes hurts. Those are things that are tangible. For me, that's spirit. And it's taken me a while to get to that. I grew up Baptist, spent my young adulthood as a Methodist, answered a call to preach, went to seminary, taught others about God, and spirit was always defined in the context of religion. And then one day I met a mentor who taught me that spirit does not have a denomination, that spirit is greater than anything we can imagine. And that was how I started to learn about spirit as this great force, this great being. And it's taken me about 20 years. And now I am here in that relationship with the great divine. If you had to define spirit, or if someone asked you, what does that mean to you when I say spirit? What would you say? And you can put it in the chat or you can just answer.
You know what? I base it on religion. And I know I do understand it's separate for most people because some don't identify with a religion as their spirituality. But that's my Baptist training. Yeah.
So I'm just going to say my definition because for some reason I can't post the chat to everyone. It just DMs the host. I don't know if it's because I'm on my phone. But my definition of spirit is kind of what you said earlier. Anything that inner peace or that inner feeling that I feel like when I accomplish goals, that like release of like weight once I finish my to-do list at the end of the workday, or when I'm excited to enter a new chapter or enter a new part of my journey, or different changes that happens, positive changes that happen, even negative change. I still feel like spirit is that just that inner peace, and I'm very protective of that, and that kind of what keeps me like in tune with my emotions. But like Dr. E mentioned, I also tie spirit to my religion, especially when I'm in what I call them grace sessions is what I call it, when I do my Bible study or when I attend church online or virtually. I consider that my grace session. So that feeling that I have to release and talk to God, that's also what I say is a spirit too.
Thank you. Yes to that. Jordan, your hand is up.
I think of spirit as like, the spirit, I think it's just like God's mind. And, when you have God's mind and dwelling in you, it does give you a whole change of spirit because now you have one residing in you in your temple and everything. And I think that spirit within me is the only thing that gives me peace because, before I let him, take the wheel and everything, I didn't have inner peace. I didn't have self-love. I didn't have self-control. I didn't have anything that, he could provide for me. And, when I yielded to the spirit, that just became my spirit. And there's another spirit, just like there's other different kinds of spirits. And they're not always necessarily good, but it just really depends on which one you yield to,
Good.
Anyone else? Those are great. Oh, and Martha said spirit is a gift, and that's true. It is an amazing gift. But in order to understand spirit, you've got to understand God. And understand God, or not even God, but a great divine, a greater power. You've got to know it for yourself. One of the notes that I put down in talking about spirit is that in childhood, we have religion. Like for me, it was what my family, they were Baptist. So everything I knew about God, I knew in the context of being Baptist. Then as I grew up, I went from childhood religion to grown-up spirituality. And I find that as spirituality matures, it will take you to places that denominations and religion won't. So you go from childhood religion to grown-up practices, grown-up understandings. And I want to share, let me see. One of the things that has helped me learn about God was I guess it was 2 years ago, Alana, I started looking at, okay, this great power, and as it's referred to in Christian texts. And I thought, okay, if I'm going to have a relationship with the great divine, I need to know more. I want more knowledge, more information. So I started with a commentary that I picked up in seminary because my mentor told me to. And it was to help improve my sermons. So of course, I read the parts that dealt with the sermons and left the rest of it alone. But I kept the book. I recently picked it up again and read the introduction. Who knew the introductions could have a lot of information? But in the introduction, it started telling me where my religion came from, and that it started in Africa. And that took me to African spirituality. So I say, know your God, know the source of the spirit that moves and works in you. And not just because someone said, this is what spirituality is. You'll be, and with an open mind, you'll be surprised the things that you'll learn. So I have not abandoned my Christian foundation, but it is enhanced, and my knowledge of spirit is enhanced by learning about a different source of worship and spirituality, and that's through the Orishas and in African faith traditions. So I guess my thing is, suppose you don't believe in God. That's a great question. Great question. I love that question. Okay, so yeah, I want to answer that question. I really want to talk about that right now. So you're absolutely right. But even within Muslim faith traditions and Jewish faith traditions, there's a higher power. So it may not be called God, it may be called Allah or Yahweh, but there are higher powers. And there are some people that don't believe in that at all. That's still in and of itself a relationship, because you're choosing to have no relationship with a higher power. You're absolutely right. It's everywhere. My mentor that told me about this book, loved her to death. When I met her, she was an Episcopal priest. And then she started to read the Quran. And one day she decided she wanted to incorporate both traditions into her faith walk. Blew my mind because I was still a Methodist. So I was like, what? You cannot do this. But I love her dearly. So I supported her and watched her grow and make this choice. Ultimately, the church told her that she had to choose. So she surrendered her credentials and now lives a very happy, productive life. Drawing from both faith traditions. So yes, it does not, I apologize. That was my Christian upbringing, calling God, God. If it helps at all, you'll probably never hear me call God He. It's God. Safety in the room. The first person that can show me God's penis, You got me. I'll go back to he. But until then, God is just that spiritual. Yeah, spirituality is a choice. And we have to grow and strengthen it. I think in this moment of spirituality, we're looking at that external force that participates in our self-care and the resources that that force uses. Okay, thank you for that. Am I missing anything else in the chat? Because that was good stuff. Okay. Okay. Then let's go on to the next slide. Okay. Whatever you call your higher power or not, for some of us, we create spaces to symbolize that, that relationship to spirituality. And for some of us, it is very much a part of our self-care. And this, I don't call it an altar. I don't really have a word for it. So if you have one, feel free to let me know. It's a part of my ever evolving walk in faith. But at the top, there's a little tiny blue cup. That's for my ancestors. And we have, I asked you earlier, who'd you bring into the room? Very fact that you named them, some living, some have transitioned, but the fact that you acknowledge their presence and what they bring to your life. So that's what the blue cup is for. So that I never forget, I didn't get here by myself, and I'm not going to be sustained by myself. And when I go, and when I transition, I probably still won't be by myself. I probably got two grandmothers just waiting to tell me what to do. But we're here because, well, I'm here because they were. And I remember them. The red cup I got as I started reading about the Orishas and who they are and how they manifest in the spirit and the different things that we attribute to them, such as colors and numbers. One of the colors is red. And sometimes I grow plants, and sometimes I'll take blooms from my plants, or I grow lavender and fresh lavender, and I'll put it in those two cups just to let them know that I appreciate. I don't think it has any mystical, magical powers that I do it, but somehow it helps me remember, and it brings me strength. And depending on what I'm going through in my walk, it brings me comfort. So I do that for them. The cup and the chalice on the second row, probably a little more common to some folk, but I put that there. First, I put it there because I was a supervisor for a ministry program at a seminary here in Indianapolis. One of my students made me the cup and the plate. He made it for communion, common cup. I put it here because it symbolizes, again, my Christian foundation. I've built on it, but still underneath, that's part of who I am. My prayer requests go in that cup. So there's stuff for my children. Don't laugh, my lottery numbers, those things. Keeping it real, keeping it real. You have not because you ask not, so I ask. And so that is that. Next to it is a plate. It's a soapstone. It's made out of soapstone, and it's made out of soapstone because it is a great conductor of heat. And if you put oil, I put lavender oil or eucalyptus, the smell comes up, the aroma comes up, and I burn incense. I burn incense as a part of my spiritual well-being. So not just anything, the stuff from the convenience store I burn in my bedroom. But for this particular set, I burn white sage. And I learned about that from some Native Americans and the significance of that. I went to a powwow and learned about that. I also burn charcoal because charcoal tablets, the charcoal itself cleanses the air. And sometimes when I'm praying, I just need to shake off whatever has tried to attach itself emotionally, mentally, physically in the day. And then I'll burn frankincense and myrrh. And I learned about burning those things. Part of how I learned that is in that one of the books that I gave that Dr. Urban has given away, The 7 Powers. So through the 7 Powers, I learned a lot about the significance, not just of the Orishas, but of involving all the senses in my relationship with God. The bowl at the bottom depends. It's a mixed bag on what goes in there. Sometimes nothing, like right now. Sometimes at Kwanzaa or different Black History Month, I'll put different things in there so that I remember the ancestors that may not be in my family tree, but they still contribute to me. So when Harriet Tubman's movie when the movie came out about Harriet, there were things in there to give thanks for what she did for all of us, and to kind of help me stir up some of that bravery in my acts throughout the day. I have candles. I have 2 bells, candlesticks. I like bells. Some people have put different meanings to bells. I like those 2 particular just because my dad gave them to me. And he's deceased, so I remember him any way I can. The soapstone is if I turned it sideways, you can see it's a round woman. Going back to the definition of womanness and the lover of round things, it helps me to remember self-acceptance. So I'm not built like, well, old Tyra Banks or any great model, but I'm no less deserving of love and self-respect. So that image helps me to remember that roundness is a beautiful thing. That's my space. Other people have spaces that they call altars and put books. I don't have any books on mine. They'll put a Bible or a Quran or other things. Anybody else in here have a place? I still don't have a name. Like I said, it's not an altar because that's just not my word. But does anybody else have one that they'd like to talk about or think about? No? Okay.
Joni, I have pictures of all of my family, past and present, because in the Latino world, we believe by keeping a place, we keep our ancestors alive by remembering them, because if you don't remember them, then they tend to fade away. So in that, I have pieces of things from my mom. My mom was very religious in the Catholic faith. So the Virgen de Guadalupe, or the Virgin of Guadalupe, is very prevalent in that space. And now with having married Paul, now it's integrated with pictures of his family and his past as well. And that's just kind of a special place for us to honor all of our family, as well as have a place, where there's other different things, there's candle that has meaning and different things like that. So that's what we have at our home.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Yes, Chantrice. Is it Chantrice?
I don't know if this is the same, but my grandmother always talked about having the closet based off the the old song.
Yes.
I can't remember the exact name, but I have it on my playlist when I have those moments. But essentially, it's creating a space in your home. For me, it's anywhere I get to first. It can be in my living room if I had a stressful day from work, where I pull up and just have a moment to decompress, talk to God, and go from there. Or it can be right before bed in my bedroom, but I just make sure it's absolute silence. There's no distractions. My phone is on like do not disturb. But yeah, I don't know if that's the same, but that's what my grandmother would tell me.
It is total.
Get you a closet. I can't remember for the life of me the name of the song, but just like the intro where they set the story of them, the car breaking down and somebody had some medical troubles. And
yes,
I don't know if you remember, it's a little old school, but that's what was played growing up. When the grandmother came out the car and was like, "Ma'am, do you have a closet?" And she went on, he write all my prescriptions and write all my medicine. So yeah.
Manita, do you remember?
No.
Man, but I can see it. I can, because they did.
Right, I have the beat and everything, and I have the song, but I can't think of who sang it. But yeah,
it's not Upper Room. Oh, that's gonna drive me nuts. But yes, but that is exactly it. That is exactly it. Having that space, because I'm single, my whole apartment is my space, which is a great thing. So yes, I get it. That closet, my grandmother went to the basement of her house in a corner in the dark, and you didn't mess with her. And you'd ask, "Where's Mama?" She downstairs, her downstairs. Because, God will smack you, or whoever she's talking to will smack you before you can get to her and interrupt that flow. But yes, we do. We have those, we all, well, I won't say we all have those spaces, but many of us have that space. Am I missing anything?
Joni, I think Bree just went unmuted, but okay. I would want, because believe it or not, these beautiful women are my staff. So I'm just saying, where do you go? I mean, at what point do you just stop and just sit? I mean, because that's what Joni's basically, where do you stop? And what takes you to that, I'm stopping and I'm just going to be calm? It's not spiritual, it's not spirituality, it's not religion, it's just you going inside and just breathing. So that's my question. Where does that happen for you? Or for me, does it happen? Does it happen?
Every day. I work, so it happens every day. And I can't come home, so I go to the bathroom. And sometimes I don't need to go. I just need to take that break, because that's the one spot that nobody is going to interrupt you, is in that stall. Now, there may be stalls on either side, but yes, every day I take that break. And sometimes it doesn't have to be just because I'm so stressed or pressed. Sometimes I do it because I got something. Like today, my best buddy, Dr. Urban, for my birthday, gave me ancestry test. And the results came today. And all I could do was go, "Yeah, see, God, I knew it." I can't tell y'all what he said because she has to be the first person, and I haven't told her yet. But it hit me as such a spiritual moment, because it's not like it showed me my great, 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 great ancestors from my place of origin, but the fact that I could now understand a little bit more of why I'm drawn to certain things that I am, or why I've been hungry to find that, and the peace that came with it's like I now have this tangible piece of information that I can drive the rest of my family nuts with, until we get the pieces together. Now, I may never know which ancestor it was that stepped off the boat, but that's okay. I kind of know where the boat came from. So those are the things that drive me to that spot. It's not always, and it shouldn't always be stress or something negative. Celebrate the little stuff. Did you get a project completed? Write a chapter on your dissertation. Hey, write a page on your dissertation. That's a moment, because something you've accomplished, something has inspired you to get that done. So that's what takes me there. Anything else? I see you nodding. Did you say something? I can't hear you. Yeah, because you're on mute.
Oh, no, I was reading, Shantri put it's come on in the room.
Come on, yes, yes, yes.
And Annie put the War Room, a prayer closet.
That's where that was, that movie. Thank you all. Thank
Sorry, Joni, you're muted.
Okay. I just want to make it a little more universal and inclusive, because I have a cousin. It was one thing for me to just walk out of church. She took a turn and decided to marry a Muslim. And it shook our family foundation for a long time. But that was her journey. And I say that because even in this moment, I think there are like 9 of us. Somebody out of this 9 is searching for that looking for ways to fill that spiritual gap in their walk. And I want to say to you, think outside the box. It's not always going to be in a book. It's not always going to be sitting in a pew or in a structure. Step outside. When the weather gets warmer, find some grass. Take your shoes off and stand in that grass and feel that connection. Those things. You may not have had a grandmother with a closet. You may not, your walk may be different, but find that way, that strength, that source outside of yourself. Even if you don't call it the great divine, find a connection. And it's not always about the intangible. We talk about the intangible, but it's also the tangible. Native Americans have the most amazing connection to spirit through nature, through earth, through ground. Find your connection, find your source. And sometimes it doesn't start with the sound, it starts with a silence. So like we started this meeting with just breathing. Sometimes just breathe. No matter what you want to call it, my greatest inspirations come when I shut up, when I stop trying to figure it out myself. Most of the time that's in the shower. Things I can't figure out, I can go in with a question and come out with an aha. And it's probably because I took that moment to shut the hell up. And it works. So that's it. That's womanist spirituality. It's loving and embracing, but not today. We're not going to talk about others. Because when we leave this room, there'll be politics and movements and marches and petitions and hunger, all those things that we help and hope to help eradicate, they're still right outside the door. But right now, this moment, it's all about you. It's all about finding that love for yourself and that self-care and connecting to the resources that make that not only possible, but keep it growing. Dr. Irvin, what's that? Can't hear you.
Do you want to have a raffle or just for me to arbitrarily pick? So this would be good for student and staff.
Both are good.
Okay.
Walker is a classic, like I said at the beginning, foundation. You can't claim mother being womanist without that book. That one, should your spiritual journey take you back to your roots or searching in other places, it's a great source. It is an excellent source. That's it.
Do we have any questions, comments for Dr. Clark?
Yeah.
Go for it.
This isn't really a question, but I just really appreciate you sharing your word and just talking about experience, because yeah, it's really nice to hear different experiences for sure. I really appreciate it a lot.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments, or shares? Okay, well, we have, I think Dr. Linear is still on board. So she will be next talking about, we're still focusing on spirit, but it's about loving yourself, loving self. So I thank you all. Can we give Dr. Clark a hand, please?
Thank you.
Thank you all for attending. There you go, Annie. Do you want to say, do you want to give a plug, Annie? Do you want to share anything about your session? You good? Okay. But I just want to share with you all that are here today. This has been a year we started this journey in like the summer. I started harassing people to help me on this journey. So I think it's a benefit regardless of if you're a woman or a male. Gender is not the guideline, nor is race or sexuality. So I appreciate you coming today. We will see you in 2 weeks on the 22nd for our next to last Radical Self-Care. So with that said, if no one else has any questions, I thank you very much for attending. Sorry, Chantrice, did you have something? Go for it.
I couldn't get to my phone in time when y'all were doing the call outs. Okay. But for those who might have said that, they didn't do self-care today, or like they didn't take time, I want them to also recognize that this moment right here counts. I labeled this in my calendar as, my grace session of just simply talking about, spirituality, the mind, and gathering different opinions and having this dialogue to speak freely. So I just wanted to give a shout out to you, Dr. Clark, for a great job in spearheading this conversation, and didn't think I was going to be talking about the closet, but I was like, oh, I need to have that session tonight, Lord. So yes. So thank you for creating this space and coming up with this topic, because I think is very important for not only our students, but our staff in these trying times of 2020, 2021, trying to recover from 2020. So yeah, that's my
Excellent.
share.
Thank you, Chantrice. Okay.
Thank you.
Any others? We're open. The doors are open. I'm just saying.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't. No, no.
Okay.
Is there one?
That's a church thing. That's a church thing. So don't worry about it. Okay. Well, thank you all. I wish you well and please be safe.
Yes, stay safe. Namaste.
Bye.